You never know what to expect watching live TV, and the accidents that occur on air aren't always happy ones. Medical emergencies turn to viral videos when these reporters suffered on camera. In January 2023, CTV reporter Jessica Robb was in the middle of a field segment. Things seemed to be going smoothly until the reporter abruptly paused and tried to gather herself. When she continued, she began immediately stumbling over her words with clear alarm in her eyes, until she ultimately decided to pass the broadcast off to another anchor. When she became unable to continue, she apologized to anchor Nariman Essa.
I'm not feeling very well right now, and I'm about to...
Okay, we'll come back to you.
The exact nature of Robb's episode was not disclosed by CTV, but Robb did make a full recovery. The reporter thanked viewers for their support on X, and the clip of the incident went viral. In response, a subset of users took the opportunity to shame Robb for having gotten the COVID-19 vaccine, which they insisted was responsible for her illness. In her statement, Robb put these users in their place, writing, "My understanding of my own medical background provides a reasonable explanation for what happened. The situation was in no way related to the COVID-19 vaccine." Tulsa, Oklahoma news anchor Julie Chin found herself struggling to read the words on her teleprompter in a particularly ominous manner during a broadcast in 2022. She seemed to recover after a moment, breaking from the teleprompter to apologize and acknowledge something was going on, ultimately tossing the broadcast over to the network's meteorologist. For at least a moment, however, it seemed that Chin might have been having a stroke, and that may have been at least partially true. Posting on Facebook several days after the incident, Chin wrote, "The past few days are still a little bit of a mystery, but my doctors believe I had the beginnings of a stroke live on the air Saturday morning." She shared that even before she was having trouble speaking, she had partially lost vision in one eye, and one of her arms had begun to go numb. In response to these symptoms, her coworkers had called 911, and she was tended to immediately. She took the very public nature of her accident as an opportunity to educate viewers on the warning signs of a stroke. Viewers of CBS Los Angeles station KCAL got a heck of a scare at the very top of a March 2023 broadcast. Anchors Rachel Kim and Nichelle Medina began the broadcast by priming viewers for some good news from meteorologist Alissa Carlson, implying that a few days of sun were on the way. However, their chipper mood went right out the window, and immediately after they handed things off to her, Carlson fainted, dropping to the floor behind her desk without speaking a single word. The program cut to a commercial break, and there was certainly cause for their alarm. 9 years prior, Carlson had become ill on air due to a leaky valve in her heart. Fortunately, this time, the reason for her collapse was relatively benign. It was determined that Carlson had suffered from a vasovagal syncope. This condition is caused by a sudden and drastic drop in blood pressure to an overstimulated vagus nerve, which are some of the most crucial parts of the entire nervous system. After her recovery, she told CBS This Morning that she'd been feeling fine up until moments before the incident, which she chalked up to having consumed a ton of coffee and skipping breakfast. She lamented her decision to ignore how she felt and then keep going. In the same segment, Dr. John LaPook explained, "That's the worst thing you can do. You want to get flat so your heart is at the same level as your head." In 2013, Utah CBS affiliate correspondent Brooke Graham was sent into the mountains to receive some pointers in cross-country skiing from members of the Utah Nordic Alliance. Graham seemed to get just a touch flustered before passing out. Luckily, she recovered quickly.
Okay. Yes.
In a subsequent post on her blog, Graham explained that the fall wasn't a particular surprise, writing, "I am known to faint anytime I am at high altitudes and get too cold." She recalled that while she tried to alert the producer that she wasn't feeling well, the message wasn't relayed in time. By the time she received the cue to start the segment, she already felt the fainting spell coming on, but decided to try to persevere. Looking back at the footage, Graham wrote that she now found it quite funny, saying, "I have laughed many times watching this video, and I do not want anyone to feel bad if they find themselves chuckling as I go down like a tree in the forest." In December 2022, veteran Atlanta Hawks announcer Bob Rathbun was beginning his pregame segment with his co-host, NBA legend Dominique Wilkins, by his side. Rathbun would later tell The Athletic that he hadn't been feeling well that day and had vomited before the broadcast. However, he had worked while under the weather before and wasn't about to bail on the segment. As Wilkins began analyzing the night's matchup, Rathbun began to convulse and was visibly struggling to remain conscious. As the camera cut away, the announcer was treated by medical staff and later whisked to the hospital. He spent 5 days being examined by doctors who would ultimately find nothing seriously wrong. Discussing the event, Rathbun recalled, "I was thinking, I know I'm going to be sick again, but let me just get through this, then I'll go vomit. And the next thing I remember, an EMT guy was standing in front of me." Although he graciously thanked fans for their support after the incident, the jovial announcer quickly shot down any talk of retirement, expressing that his love for his job remained. In July 2023, one of soccer's biggest legends, former goalkeeper Shaka Hislap, was on the pitch working as an analyst before a soccer match. As his colleague Dan Thomas was speaking, Hislap appeared to stumble a bit before falling face first into Thomas. The broadcast quickly cut to a commercial, but viewers didn't have to wait too long for an update. At halftime, Thomas addressed the home audience.
It's good news. He's conscious, he's talking. I think he's a little embarrassed about it all. He's apologized profusely.
Hislap later took to X, formerly known as Twitter, to thank his fans for their enormous outpouring of support, although he couldn't offer much in the way of explanation for the episode.
Listen, every so often life gives you a moment to pause, and this was mine.
In the video, he also took time to highlight the support he received from his ESPN team members, specifically thanking Thomas and all the crew on site for their quick and caring response to the incident. In 2011, CBS 2 reporter Serene Branson was reporting from LA's Staples Center on the results of that year's Grammy Awards when things quickly went wrong. As soon as the broadcast was handed over to her, Branson began drastically stumbling over her words. The segment was quickly wrapped up as Branson received medical attention, and for the better part of a year, viewers were left unsure as to what exactly had happened. Fortunately, the fumbling of her words wasn't caused by something as serious as a stroke like it may have been in Chin's case. Speaking with CBS in 2012, Branson revealed she had suffered a migraine. As a result of the incident, she began accepting speaking engagements to raise awareness for the issue and called the episode a big wake-up call regarding her health. She explained, "I'm very mindful of what I'm eating. I'm very mindful when I travel to try and stay hydrated. I keep the migraine medicine with me." Channel News Asia correspondent Julie Yu gave viewers a scare in November 2022 as she and a colleague were reporting from Egypt to cover the United Nations climate change talks. As the broadcast was handed over to the veteran broadcaster and her partner, they stood in silence for several seconds before Yu fell to the floor. The studio anchor sat puzzled for several moments before moving on to the next segment, assuring viewers that Yu would receive aid. The station would later issue a statement explaining that Yu had simply been dehydrated, and that this, combined with low blood sugar, had precipitated her fainting spell. The statement also informed viewers that she would be back to work the next day and thanked the public for their concern for the reporter. In December 2015, CNN anchor Poppy Harlow was wrapping up a segment with a foreign correspondent, segueing into a new poll that reflected a degree of dissatisfaction on the part of Americans with then-President Obama's handling of the war on terrorism. As viewers saw a graphic with the results of the poll on their screens, Harlow began to fumble with her words and slur her speech before gasping and falling silent. The feed quickly cut to a commercial, and when it returned to the studio, Harlow was back on camera addressing her viewers.
I got a little hot and I passed out for a moment. I am fine. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Harlow, who was quite pregnant at the time, actually did not return that morning. Instead, she went to the hospital where she and her unborn daughter were both pronounced to be in good shape. Veteran anchor bounced back in short order and gave birth in April 2016. Australian ABC reporter Michael Rennie had only been on his current job for about a week when he gave his coworkers and viewers a scare while reporting from a Queensland meat processing plant that recently laid off hundreds of people. While doing the reports, Rennie's speech simply fell apart, and he went from minor stumbles over words to being rendered near speechless in just moments. Anchor Joe O'Brien quickly cut the segment short, but not before we got a quick look at Rennie's worrying expression. O'Brien assured viewers that Rennie was being taken care of, and fortunately, it turned out that the episode was due to simple dehydration. Rennie was back on the air the very next day, and at the conclusion of his segment, anchor Lisa Miller couldn't help but express her relief that her colleague was feeling better. In response, Rennie assured her that he was feeling considerably better and consuming plenty of water to ensure the mishap wouldn't happen again.